Okay, welcome to part 2 of the interview with Alt Ending. In this one, we're going to obviously answer a lot of questions, look ahead to the season and where we think Sunderland are going to be and where we compare to the teams around us. So please enjoy this interview. Please like, comment, subscribe as well if you enjoy. Let's dive into it.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got some questions. So we'll go through these questions quite quick. I'm aware that we've been recording for a while, but we'll go through them as quick as possible because we've got other things we need to talk about as well. So
Right.
Angie Smith asks, now the transfer window is closed, who do you think our start 11 will be and why? And then Gary FTM says, assuming all fit, what is our best back four? So is this the players in white? Is this roughly what you think our strongest 11 is?
I think it is at the minute. I mean, it's hard to know. I definitely think, does Ballard come back in? Because he's earned so much of Lebrie's trust. If he's fit, does he come back in? I don't know. I don't think Gertrude replaces Hume immediately. I think Hume has earned that place there. I think it's his to lose. But it's hard to know. The one that I would be least sure about, I would have said, was Talby. But then he kept his place and Lebrie dropped Adingra. So it's hard to know. But that would be what I assume it is at the minute. But it's a good thing that we're not sure, because that means that we have options and rotations that are possible.
That is very, very true. I listened to a Leeds podcast earlier today to see how they are not doing well, by the way, after their deadline day and their transfer window. But I listened to one of theirs.
Okay, they're 24 points ahead. They don't need to worry.
Yeah, they are. That's true. But they do not have the depth chart that we have. I'll certainly leave it at that. Right. Another question. Jack Asbury says, do you think Speakman and Gasolfi will have been taking notes on all the other protracted sagas around the league and learn how best to handle these situations? We could find ourselves in one if our players has a runaway season. And I think that this question, to me, goes back to Bellingham. Sunderland could very easily have dug their heels in and went, we are only accepting the release clause, which was, I think, 40 million-ish. And they didn't do that because they realized the value of getting that sorted out in June. And I think Sunderland's approach would not be what Newcastle have done with Isak, where they've let that whole thing go out in public, and what we've seen with Visser at Brentford as well. Look, I'm not saying you should get robbed and should not, should take less, but Newcastle should have proactively worked with Liverpool and said, look, we need to reach an agreement here and get this done so we can sign players and move on. I think that is the Sunderland approach. What we saw with Bellingham will be what we'll see going forward with sagas of players potentially wanting to leave. I think the club have already shown, even with Jack Clark, it was very professionally held. Ross Stewart was the same, professionally held. You want to leave, we'll let you go and we'll just get a fair price. I don't think you'll ever see Sunderland dig in and go, do you know what? We're going to keep you out of spite and let this all run out in the media. I just don't think that's the way that Sunderland are built these days.
I think you're right. And I think we've built a reputation on saying to players, particularly young, skillful ones, you come here, you'll get game time, we'll do. And if you do well, you'll get a big move and we won't stand in your way. And I think if you look at Jack Clark and if you look at Joe Bellingham, both of them, I think we had expectations that we might get more for them, but both of them had clearly been spoken to by the club saying if a big offer comes in, you can go. So we took a little bit less than that, and they went to those respective places, and the money has been good for us. And I think it doesn't matter if that happens. I think you're right. We will let players go if they have a great season and good big bids come in for them. That's part of what will attract the new bunch of young players. But it's also getting that business done early. Will enable us to spend. But it's better than that. I think we're actually planning for that. We're planning for who is attracting attention. So we get Mundle when Jack Clark has an ace season. And then Mundle comes along and doesn't play too much for the best part of a season. And then at the start of the next season, Jack Clark is gone and Mundle is here and integrated and ready. And so I think that, when players start to look like they are an extraordinary asset, then we will see replacements brought in for that moment. And I think they will manage it with a plan, like they have done at each stage here. Yes, we will let Bellingham go for a little bit less than we really wanted to, because we said we would, and actually we can get this player immediately. I mean, we didn't have him in the club, but they had clearly targeted him. It was the same week that we got him. Diarra as his replacement. So I think the club are plan for this, sometimes internally, sometimes with targets, and I think that they sell themselves on this, and I think it's going to continue to happen. If we want to deal with PSR, then we're going to continue to sell big assets, and as long as we have the same people who are planning so competently, then I think we'll be fine. And none of this is new, by the way. I remember Kenwyn Jones went on strike so that he could come to us. So this has always happened, and we took him. And I can't remember. Did he go on strike to leave us then? I can't remember. So long ago.
No, I think we just sold him. Nobody goes on strike to go to Stoke.
No, but I'm sure that the Southampton fans were curious about why he went on strike to come here. So I mean, these things aren't new, and I don't think that they're new problems that you suddenly have to find ways to deal with. I already think that they're kind of coping with that, and I think we'll be fine. We will have to accept that assets will be sold. That's how. I mean, Bellingham funded an enormous portion of this window, because you can multiply his money by 5 because you had out 5-year contracts, and it's worth an enormous amount to be able to spend in terms of 3-year PSR or whatever. So yeah.
We're all accountants now in football. KLD Pilled, I think is the name. I apologise if I've written that down wrong. Is assembling that brand new defence for only £25 million statue worthy? I bet Speakman and Gasoffi look great in Bonds. I think also Stuart Harvey, you have to give him a bit of credit as well. He deserves a lot of praise for building this team. Ryan Smith. Sorry, I was going to move on to the next question.
I think they can all potentially be sold for more than we've got them. And there are some revelations in there. I mean, like I said, I don't think any of us expect Alderete to be as composed and amazing as he is. But it's really early days. I mean, we'll have to see. It's 2 games. I don't know how good Nordi Mukiele is going to be. He looks quite good. I did see him give an obvious back pass to somebody at Huddersfield right in front of him, to an opponent. Those things happen. He's quite the drama queen as well. It's like me when I've stubbed my toe. He looks like he's dead.
Yeah.
He did it at Huddersfield as well. He did against Huddersfield as well. So 2 in 2 games, he's had his foot chopped off, I think. Won't last long.
Ryan Smith says, can we get the best estimate of our net spend? It's annoying seeing everyone say we're going to get humped by PSR, but I think between our sales contract left and the add-ons offered, we've done really well and probably aren't that close to getting done by PSR. That's basically what you were just talking about before.
Yeah, our net spend is get louds, like that's it. I think look, we're nowhere near PSR. We don't have to worry about that. I think you can lose 61 million a year over the 3 years. I think we lost very little in the last 2 years we're in the Premier League. But you divide the spend over the contracts you hand out, and because we've bought an entire new 11, I think apart from people like Xhaka and some of the recent ones we bought, almost everybody got given 5-year contracts. So you're actually calculating the fifth of the price, and it's all far too dull now. But we're considerably under our PSR because we can count all of the Bellingham money now, but only a fifth of the layout on those 5-year contracts now. And then you do another fifth next year, but no Bellingham money coming in, another fifth. But that's why I think some of our signings were held until, I can't remember the date, it was something like the 20th of August or something like that, when there is a cut-off date for last year's PSR and this year's PSR. So some of our defensive signings were after that date, and none of our sales or loans were until after that date. And I think that was deliberate to have it counted in a different PSR year. But I think honestly, I think we're fine. And there will be sales. Equator Rangers, I think we've got a 35% sell-on clause for them, haven't we?
I mean, it's certainly we will have one standard in every single transfer that I've ever seen. So, I think that... I don't think Pierre-Emerick is going to turn into a top-class central midfielder. So it's no surprise that the shit show that is Rangers right now are interested in Pierre-Emerick. That would fit them very nicely.
Well, interesting that Martin saw him score 2 goals against his team and now wants to buy him. It's a very Barry Fry school of transfer, isn't it? If you score against me, I will sign you.
His best ever game just happened to come against him. Tucky Weeb, I think is how you say that one. Looking at the business done and who has been moved, would you say the club's model has changed? Like, we know a lot of money has been spent to stay up here, but going forward with future windows, will we revert to a similar frugality, or will all windows see us spend tons? Well, I think we kind of touched on that with the PSR, didn't we? Like, obviously, there is not going to be the need to buy 13 players next summer.
We're never spending like this again until the next reset. Which won't happen ever. So we're never spending like this again, because we don't need to, and we can't. We've got a whole raft of players on 5-year contracts. We cannot spend another £150 million on another bunch of 5-year contracts and the wages that go with it. But the whole point of this transfer window is that we don't need to do that. We will probably spend somewhere between 50 and 100 if things go well and we have some saleable assets, and that will keep us ticking over in some key positions. And I think what is perhaps an interesting question for later on in the season is to look at thinking about next summer. Where do we need to improve in terms of age and in terms of contracts running down and in terms of depth? Where would we need to see some quality improvement for next season? I don't think we know that yet, but that will be an interesting question to think, because then you'll get an idea of how much do we need, and will that require player sales, and therefore who. And so you can have those conversations, I think, once you get past AFCON, and see where we are. And that will be interesting to think about, because it will give you an idea of what we'll spend, what we need, who might be sold, and can we do it. And I actually think we can, but it depends on how everything goes.
So players out then, let's talk a little bit about that. I'm aware I've taken an hour and 20 minutes of your time so far, so I hope you're okay for time.
I'm fine, yeah.
Excellent, okay.
I have someone listening to me talk. It's like my ego is satisfied.
Yeah, same. That's why I made a YouTube channel. It's just to have people hear my ramblings, because the wife doesn't care. But anyway, transfers out. Joe Bellingham left for Borussia Dortmund. Tommy Watson went to Brighton.
There's a man who needs a statue.
Yeah.
Tommy Watson.
Well, he's got a mural. He's awful.
I saw that, yeah. That goal has changed the entire future of this football club.
Yeah.
Hopefully forever. That is huge, that goal.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. And I would talk about it for days and days and days, but I kind of already did that at the end of the season. No, it's fine. I'm happy to remember it. Al-Shish went to Aberdeen, one of my favourites who I feel like was disregarded last season. Patrick Roberts went to Birmingham. Sealt went to Wolfsburg. We touched on that one at the top. Any of these a surprise? Any of these sort of stick out? I mean, Roberts, for me, I didn't think he would go, and I love Patrick Roberts, so I think it's a big shame.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a big shame. I know he's only on loan, but I think all of us recognise he's probably never playing for us again.
Well, hopefully he never does, because if he plays for us again, it suggests we've been relegated.
I'm not even thinking about that. It's a bit of a sad moment, but I can't remember, maybe it was Graham Falk.
Probably was him. He loves Patrick Roberts.
He said, I think he may have said something along the lines of something like that. It's really nice. Yeah, it was him. I remember. And he said this. He said, normally when players leave, I've wanted the door to smack them on the back of the head as they've gone out. And he said, it's really nice to have a player who leaves on a high with, all the best wishes that we can. And I think that was really nicely put by Graham. And I feel the same. We're not used to having players. Normally you want to kick them through that door by the time they've gone in the past. But he's leaving, and everyone's kind of a bit, I know you're not good enough, but, you scored against Sheffield Wednesday and got us into the final at the last minute. You put that pass off to equalise against Mayenda. And once that goes in, all of us in the stadium felt the momentum swing. There was only one team going to win it from that point. And those are key moments. And the guy is, he's just a nice guy who found a home here. And he has been pivotal in the transformation of this club from League One to now. And he doesn't really get a chance at the Premier League. He's not quite good enough, but I still want to keep him. So that's if that means he's not going to play, but I still want to keep him. So yeah, a bit sad. It's like turning the chapter over, because we've bought an entire new team. So it's a bit of a sad moment, but a really good one. And I like the way Graham put it. Ashish, I liked as well. Didn't quite get a good run in the team, but also, I think we know not good enough. And he's not having the best of times at Aberdeen. He's been poor for them so far. We're selling who we expected to, and I don't think that these players would play for us anyway. So off they go. I like Sealt a lot, though. I'm really staggered by that Wolfsburg. I think it's good for him. I think he can be a good defender. He's still very young. So the season there, and let's see.
Yeah. No, I'd be interested to see if he can get a run of games and not get injured. I would love to. I don't know if you've ever played like Football Manager and stuff. I suspect you probably have because you.
I don't play it anymore. I do, but I don't play it anymore. Otherwise, I won't go to work for 4 months, and I'll find out I've got that job.
That's a big problem. But I would love to like have a save file that ended the day after the playoff final, so I could see how that playoff final team actually did in the Premier League. And I think that's like the shame of, we're going to talk about Dan Neil and Serkin and whatnot in their situation. But that's the shame of it when you go up. That the reality is these players who get you up and you have that day. A lot of them.
That would be nice. And I think we all thought we'd get some quality signings in alongside maybe 5 of those people starting, but it might end up being 1 of those people starting in Hume. And if you count the Faye, maybe 2, maybe Ballard won't start. I don't know. It would. The reality is, if we go up with the majority of that squad as our first team, we get mullered week in, week out. I think it's the reality. So, it's fantasy football, but I saw us lose. What was it? 3-1 to. I saw us lose 3-1 at home to Charlton Athletic. I think we scored all 4 or something daft like that.
Yeah.
I was at that game, and that doesn't happen in fantasy football. Was my complaint. So, what's it doing in the real world? We did. We scored all 4 that day, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We have the record. 3-1 goals. Michael Proctor scored 2. Michael Proctor does not like it when you're in the canteen at the training ground and you talk about that game.
Oh, really?
Just if that ever happens.
He scored 2, didn't he? Or did he score 3? 2.
No, he scored 2.
At either end.
Phillips scored, I think, a penalty.
Yeah.
And Proctor scored 2 own goals in the game.
I was up at the Black Cats bar that game, and I went in at half time, and I just ordered 4 pints and never came out for the second half. So what's the point?
I was going to say that's a wise decision, but I don't think it is because the prices you would have paid in there. You'd be better off going across the road.
I can't remember it being very different in those days. I can't remember.
Yeah, anyway. Areas of weakness. Ethan Todd has asked, do you think there are any areas of concern that the club have failed to address or not recruited in adequately despite all the business we've done? I mentioned that I still think right winger. I'm not no, I like Adingra. That's not saying that Adingra's not good. I don't know if we've necessarily got the pieces to complete to create a fluid attack. It's basically, and I've mentioned this earlier, but that's my one concern. Is that other than that, I think they've addressed.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with defence. I'm pretty happy with midfield. Like you, I'd like another right winger, a really real quality one. Goal scorer, the jury's out. It's difficult to know how Bromley will.
You can't actually sign a proven Premier League goal scorer.
No, you can't.
People talk about that. There, literally, Visser went to Newcastle for 55 million. I think he's 29 years old. But while he has got a proven record, the system that Brentford played for him is very different to the system that Newcastle played. So, you can look at players that have been signed and go, right, well, they are proven in the Premier League, but that does not mean they're proven in your system with the players that you have.
I hear this a lot. It's garbage. Almost all of the players in the league came here from somewhere else and were unproven when they got here and got to be stars by coming here. It's just a garbage statement. Are they good footballers? Have they had quality experience in other leagues? I think we buy from France and Germany because they are the tougher leagues that they could play in. But, even Germany doesn't have consistent opposition, neither does France. But they have, maybe 40% of the league is tough, similar to the Premier League. You do what you can there, but they've got to come from somewhere. And you look around the teams in the Premier League, they're not littered with homegrown talent who have 100 games against each other. They're not. So it's just an absurd statement to say you can't have these players because they don't have any experience. That's everybody. It's irritating me.
Yeah. It's like when you certainly for me, when you finish university and you apply for jobs and everywhere goes, we need 4 years experience, 3 years experience. Like, yeah, I'm never going to get that unless I get a job. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Dan Neil and Dennis Serkin, because my perspective, on this was that if they didn't sign new contracts in the summer, then the club would have to sell them. Certainly Dan Neil, because of the PSR, you get the pure profit and all that nonsense. If they'd sold Dan Neil for 15 million rather than let his contract run down, it would have just made sense. He's not played a minute in the Premier League yet. I don't know if that's to do with his contract situation or if it's something else. Serkin was linked with Tottenham, I seem to recall, because of their homegrown player. Obviously, he's been injured, so maybe that's affected things. I actually felt both of these players could adapt to the Premier League. I thought both were in the small list of players that I really believed could play in the Premier League and thrive. And I think it's just interesting that they haven't signed new contracts yet, but also the fact that they're still here. And Dan Neil is not been linked away. I know that there was that, I think it was Mike McGrath had an article where he'd said that Dan Neil's decided to stay at Sunderland and fight for his place. But we have not seen any rumours, any links or anything with Dan Neil away, and not even any rumours about him potentially signing a new deal. It's just, the situation's weird.
It is. I think that there's lots of talk, about why they wouldn't sign a contract. I don't think we really know. You don't know how fair any of that talk is. People speculate they want more money, they want more this, and then they're looking for transfers. And then nothing happens about them. I think the reality is we just don't know. We don't know what the reason is. If it's just timetabling or let's see where we are before we agree a new deal. We don't know what division we're going to be in. And we don't know what the squad is going to be like. So at both ends, it could be quite a reasonable, let's see where we are next season. And then decisions are made. And I think they will probably be made now because the window is closed, we have a squad, and everyone can make a fair assessment about what they want and where they want to be. And I think that's really rather nice. I don't think there's anything particularly malicious about that. I think if somebody says, I don't know where I want to be, I think that's kind of the same attitude that the club has to young players who say, if I do really well, will you let me move on? I think if players ask those kind of questions, I have no idea if they did, then those are very reasonable responses from the club to say, okay, well, let's see where we are and see what happens, and we'll go from there. That just seems nice. So let's hope that's it. I do think that they will have a part to play, particularly in AFCON and with injuries. If you look at that team lineup again, it's hard to look at that central midfield and say we have enough cover unless you include Neil there. So I think it's inevitable that he will get cover. When Xhaka reaches his yellow card limit and takes a one-game ban, maybe Lafi and Siddiqui go there. Maybe Neil, or if one of them's injured, then Neil will almost certainly have to play. I don't know, unless you take one of these defenders out and put them in front of the back line. Who knows what will happen? But my suspicion, like you, is that they will be given some time to develop. It's hard to see where Chris Rigg gets time from as well. But he signed a new contract, so they must have said to him, there will be time. And if they sign contracts, it will be because they get time. So they can't go anywhere now. And does it really matter if we lose them now? If they went for free next summer, how much would it matter? I don't know. I have the feeling that the rest of our squad is going to be much more valuable than they could be if they were sold now. But like you said, there doesn't appear to have been many offers for them.
Yeah, I think if my, I suppose, concern would be if say Granit Xhaka picked up a touch wood, this doesn't happen. I've got a wooden desk. Let's say he breaks his leg. Breaks his leg next week on Switzerland international duty. Then this midfield, Dan Neil moves into that number 6 spot, and then Dan Neil actually proves that he's a decent Premier League player. The club have put themselves in a difficult position there. I don't know. I just think for me, at the end of the season, my expectation was that Dan Neil and Dennis Serkin, Dan Neil more so, would have got a new contract. I mean, as far as I'm aware, he's on £4,000 a week when we were in the Championship.
That's I don't know.
it's a low end wage though for that level, considering the quality of player he is. I just think it's astounding that this situation's happened and they've not managed to get it, especially when they've done contracts for other players. We have renewed other players, and this is our captain for the previous season, and it's not been done. It's just weird.
But those things have come. Those things have come now. So it might well be the case that they offer him something last year, and what they offer him is based upon, I don't know if we're going to be in the Premier League, and then after we get promoted, there's a case of, I don't know who we're going to have or who might bid for you, and he's clearly not going to sign a contract in the middle of the summer when somebody might come in for him. You hear those stories about Roma or Liverpool from here and there in years, and so he might think, well, let me see what happens first. I think that's quite reasonable. So I think once the window is closed now, I think they will probably do something now, because both sides now are much clearer about their worth. And I think you get a contract offer that the other player recognises, or the other way around, or he asks, whatever, and they both recognise much clearer. We know we're in the Premier League. We know this is our squad. We know what offers we've had or not, and I think you get a much more likely agreement happen now. So, and look, if we stayed up, then and he doesn't sign a contract, well. I mean, how much would we lose? There doesn't appear to have been enormous offers. I think if we had an enormous offer, he probably would have been gone. If someone was prepared to take 10 million, they'd probably take it with 1 year left. So, I mean, what would we actually lose if he goes next summer? Not much by relative terms. So it seemed astounding coming from where we were, but less so where we are. And I think you have to have faith in the board that they know what they're doing, given what we've seen in the last 10 months.
I was going to say, yeah, that is true. I mean, he'll probably look at Josh Brownhill, who still doesn't have a club, and think, do you know what? Sometimes
he keeps turning contract. They turned another one down today, didn't he?
Yeah, Brownhill. Apparently, Leeds are potentially interested in him.
Yeah,
I don't know. Tony Bang, last question is: it feels like we've gone all in to stay up. If we are relegated, will Regis have failed, or is the Premier League becoming out of reach? God, I hope we are safe by Christmas. Lol. I mean, I hope we're safe by Christmas as well. If we are relegated, has Regis failed? I think it's too simple to put the blame on a head coach. That's very Ellis Short era at Sunderland to go, the coach is the problem, let's get rid of it. So I don't think you could blame him, but I would say that he has been given all of the tools he possibly could have had. Yes. I think you said this at the start of the show. Everything that he could have wanted, he has been granted. Everything that the club has needed, they have gotten. You have to give a lot of credit to the club for this. If we are to be relegated, as you said at the start, I give no hope to any team ever breaking the monotony of this 17 Premier League clubs. I just don't think it's possible.
You cannot have a better stab at staying up than this. You have to believe that it's possible. I think you kind of touched on what happens to Labrie. I mean, I don't really think it's worth talking about because we're so far from it. I feel a bit disrespectful, but let's imagine that we got relegated. I think his tenure at the club depends on the manner in which we're relegated. If we get 35 points and we run everything close, then you might look back at a few moments here and there, but you might think, well, we did pretty well, and he got us promoted last year with next to nothing. We're going to have a lot of saleable assets. Maybe you keep him. We kept Mick McCarthy. Do you remember them? We got relegated. Yeah. We kept him, didn't we, when we went down? I remember I was at a fans meeting when we got promoted, and Bob Murray spoke, the promotion party. And I think we got promoted by accident. And Bob Murray said at that meeting, look, it's going to be really tough. There actually is no money. And that's not it. not exaggerating. There isn't any money. And so Paul Mick McCarthy had nothing to play with and didn't get the sack. But this is a bit different. So I think he has to at least get close. If we go down miserably like Leicester, then of course you don't get to stay. And just I really like Labrie. I think he's a big part of why we were successful last year and now. I think he's one of the most flexible managers we're going. I think the Championship is full of absolute chod all over the place. I think probably only a third of managers are actually any good. and lots of them just playing one style and don't know anything else and are quite ignorant, and lots of them have no real idea what they're doing. I think they're really inflexible, about 2/3 of those managers. So I think he's really good. I do think he's been a bit too cautious in these first 3 games. I think first half, and I get it. It's a strength. He will set his team up, and it's like he says to them, "Whatever you do, don't lose the game in the first 20 minutes. That's a waste of our time," and that's fair enough. But I feel like he's really super cautious first half, and it's always the tweaks he makes second half where we're more adventurous, where he will substitute somebody coming on to press the game, and where we will try to push on a bit more. And that is a fair enough way to play the game, but you're not going to win games by much margins there, because you're only ever going to score mostly in the second half and late on. You're not usually going to score first half. So I that's the only thing that I think about, is that I wonder if I don't know. I mean, it's best to be cautious in our position. We're just there finding our feet. But I do wonder if he's sometimes too cautious. And Burnley would be a really good example of that, I think.
Yeah.
But I'd much rather we had someone who was able to change and to switch it up with tweaks. And I'd much rather we had someone who, made sure we didn't lose a game in the first 20. So, yeah.
I mean, I suppose that the best way of signing this whole hour and however long this has been is really to talk about who do you actually think will go down. I mean, I know obviously we're Sunderland fans, we watch Sunderland religiously, but who are the teams that you're looking at? Because, and I'll give you my perspective, I think Wolves are bang in trouble. I think Leeds are bang in trouble. I think Burnley just haven't done enough. I think them 3 are worse than Sunderland. I think West Ham are not any great shakes, but the fact that all they had to do was put 4 at the back and they win 3-0, maybe they're going to be a bit better than we thought. Yeah. I think Brentford actually showed at the weekend. I thought Brentford were actually okay. I think they're
very one-dimensional, though.
I was about to say that there is clearly issues there, but I just think they've got quality. I think they'll pick up points at home, and that's kind of my thought there. But I certainly think Sunderland are better than Leeds, Burnley, and Wolves, and that gives me hope that we should stay up in the Premier League, because I just think them 3 are far worse than us.
I think the problem with Wolves and Burnley is they play exactly the way they did all of last season, and I don't really see any other way of playing it. We all knew that Burnley would sit in and play diagonals down the wing to try and get in behind the fullbacks, and we should be capable of dealing with that, and we should have been a bit more capable of breaking them down. I think we could have expected a bit better from that game, because we know how they're going to play, and they played exactly like that. The same with Leeds. You watch them against Everton, the opening game, they played exactly the same way they always did. They
haven't scored an open play yet.
No, these things are not going to. They're not going to work. But I mean, I think we've scored above our expectation. I'm not sure we are as amazing as we might like to believe, although I am currently believing it. I think we're quite conservative in the way we play. But as you say, we haven't played a team that we're built to play against yet. So we'll see. But I have been doing, because I just like to try to find answers to these, I have been doing sort of geeky followings to try to figure out who. So I did all that stuff in my video about the quality of the player, the breadth of the squad. But I also have been tracking. I've been trying to find ways to figure out who it's going to be. So I've got an XG calculation picture there. So what I've been doing here, it's only 3 games. I don't think there's anything very much in it, but I'd like to see what it looks like after 5 and after 10. But I think after 10 games, I think 3/4 of the league end up within 2 points of their position after 10 games. That almost everybody does. And I think after 8 games, after 5 games, if you've got 8 points, you stay up. Only 15 teams have done that, and they all stayed up. 15 promoted teams. After 10 games, if you have 11 points, you have an 85% chance of staying up as a newly promoted side. So I think there are lots of good things in our favour. But who would go down? I have been trying to calculate the XG for and the XG against as just a simple sum to say who is actually got the worst chance at scoring and biggest chance of conceding. So who's effectively the worst summed team. And if you look at that table, it's only 3 games, and obviously it would change. But I don't think if you take the bottom half from, say, Brentford down, I don't think there are. What you might move Tottenham out of there. You might move Forest out of there.
But Tottenham did finish 17th last season.
Yeah, but I don't think there's too much wrong with that kind of bottom half, is there?
I mean, Villa will come out, I would expect.
Yeah, Villa, maybe Forest and Tottenham. I don't think Sunderland will end up there, but if they do, I win a ton of money with Bet Victor. I think it'd be interesting to follow this and see how this develops and see if there's anything in it. I've got no idea if there is, but you look at the Wolverhampton, Burnley. I mean, the teams that we expect down there: Fulham, Everton, Leeds, West Ham, Brentford. I think they're kind of in the right place. And you look at the top half of the table, and you think they're probably kind of the teams we'd expect to see in the top half.
Yeah.
So even it's only 3 games, but I think there is something there. I'm going to keep an eye on it and see how it develops. Wolves, Burnley, definitely.
What's AFCON PNG? Is this the African Cup of Nations games?
It is. It was just the dates along the top. I haven't done it properly, but I thought you were going to mention it about whether we, how we will fare. When will we see Dan Neil in the single pivot?
As far as I was aware, it basically runs from Boxing Day, doesn't it? Like, that's when we'll lose players. So we'll not have players for Leeds at home, which I think is scheduled for the 27th.
Yeah,
I think that's correct.
Yeah, there's no possibility to postpone games. People keep thinking this is true. I read the Premier League manual and their rules about postponement, and you cannot postpone a game for AFCON. And there are very, very small, narrow reasons for postponing a game, and it's nothing to do with this. You can't do it. But we can blame Saudi for this, because the African Cup of Nations was due to be played in July, but then they made the Club World Cup and expanded it, and so they had to move it. So the reason we lose our players is there because of the Club World Cup. But
PIF. Newcastle screw over again.
Well, yeah, but happily they also screw Newcastle over by funding Chelsea the money to Pedro, which is hilarious.
That is very, very true. That is very, very funny as well. Yes, I do agree. I mean, didn't they technically fund Isak? Didn't they buy a player from Liverpool? I feel like they bought Nunez. 58
million. Yeah.
Yeah. So who was paying 58 million for Darwin Nunez? Nobody. Anyway, what a way to end. What a way to end. Thanks. So I'll end it. Yeah, I'll end it. Hopefully, we're going to see you making videos very, very soon, because I miss your analytical. I miss your tones getting out there on the YouTube waves. So, what do you think we'll expect to see? I mean, you were. I would say you were an irregular poster. You maybe once a month. I would say. Roughly.
They were incredibly hard to do. Every minute of video took about an hour to make. So if I made a 20-minute review, that is at least 20 hours of work to try and put that together. So they take incredibly long. And in the Championship, if you're doing 2 games a week, and if I might go out and see something, then I can't do 2 games in a row. So it's irregular for that reason. And it's just impossible to do that. And that's also why I don't think anybody else does it, because it's just an absurd amount of work for minuscule return. So that's why I'd like to keep doing it in some form. Maybe the new format will prove quicker. We'll see. But I only started doing it because when we were in League One, I couldn't find anything. There was no analysis. There was no match of the day. There was a 90-second clip at 1 a.m. on ITV3 or something like that. And so I just said, if I can't find this, maybe other people want to watch some analysis while again. So I started doing it then. Now there's loads of us because we're in the Premier League, so I might have to do something different. But I do like doing it. I get that other people like it. And because we're not one of the big top teams, other people are, TV pundits are lazy about us. So I get that sometimes what I say interests our own fan base because it's a bit closer to what's truer, I think. Yeah. We'll see what I can do.
Yeah, I mean, what always interested me about your channel was the fact that A, nobody else was doing it, but B, it's presented in a way that's easy to understand. Like, I don't watch football in an analytical way. I watch football from a very basic. Well,
if it's any comfort, when I'm at the game myself, I don't see it like that. I'm too caught up in it like everyone else. It's just all euphoria. I don't see those things really, but. Talking about it more, I did start to notice them more in the lulls in games. Do sort of cast your eye over what our fullbacks doing and what's the shape. So, but I think people liked it. It made them look at things a bit better.
No, I think that most Sunderland fans I spoke to, at least, were aware of your channel, and I would always point them in the direction of saying you should watch this guy.
You're very kind.
Yes, yes. Well, I think I did message you a couple of, I don't know when it was. I did message you when I first started watching them, saying really enjoy the videos. Can't remember when that was, but I definitely did. But anyway, thanks for joining us here.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
I'm sure we'll see you again throughout the season. Thanks for an hour and 50 minutes of your time on my clock here. I really, really appreciate that. Please, everyone, also let me know what you think about Sunderland's transfer business. Leave comments. I always interact with comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed content like this. And I'm sure if Alt Enden will brace us with his presence, we'll see him throughout the season.
I'd love to come back and review all of the things that I said that turned to trash. That would be fun.
Well, hopefully none of them did, because we were both very optimistic about the season ahead. So it'll be very disappointing if I eat humble pie at the end of the season.
We are definitely staying up. If not, because I'm going to bankrupt Bet Victor when we do.
Yeah. So okay. There we are. Bold. We can go for a beverage on you if someone's finish in the top half. So thanks for coming on anyway. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you very soon for another video.